Hi, I'm Marlene. Jerry Seinfeld once said, "All fathers are intimidating. Once a man has children, for the rest of his life, his attitude is, to hell with the world. I can make my own people. I'll eat whatever I want. I'll wear whatever I want, and I'll create whoever I want." It's actually the sort of thing my father could have said. My father was charming and funny and loving and generous. Amongst many other things, he was a designer, a gemnologist, a ceramicist, a teacher, a photographer, a painter, and a visionary. He told stories, he had an amazing sense of humor, and a penetrating, uncanny insight into people. I admired my father and I loved him, but he was also mercurial and volatile and really hard to live with. So for most of my life, I was terribly afraid of my father. The mystery of why my father was the way he was has been an endless topic of conjecture in our family. We came up with these ideas at various times. It's because his mother died when he was a baby. It's because he lost his youngest brother to some terrible disease as a teenager. It's because his father and his mother were uncle and niece, which is a tradition in some parts of India. He had an undiagnosed bipolar disorder. Geniuses are often a bit crazy. Who knows? Our family home in Penang sprawled on the top of a hill on a large block of land, and it was huge with 2 wings, 2 sitting rooms that adjoined each other to form a great hall, really high ceilings, and lots of wall space. And on every single wall, there was art. Now you'd think that was a good thing, but my mother found most of it highly objectionable, and that's because it was almost all my father's art, and he had a very particular style. She was okay with his early art because it was accessible and realistic and literal and safe. But then there was his digression into modern art. These he was really proud of, the abstract stuff and the messy splotches and the meaningless scratches, paintings that didn't look like anything. And in the 1960s and 70s in Malaysia, think 40s and 50s in the Western world, this kind of art was pretty out there. So our family home was really different and intriguing. In fact, part of the living room, the wall was painted with broad violet stripes. There was one really huge piece that he hung in the very center of the house. It was a cool modern work that Mum found exceptionally hideous. It was large and purple and decidedly non-literal. It certainly belonged to that second style. I actually don't remember if I liked it, but I do remember the energy of it and how it aroused strong emotions in people. My father used to say that it didn't matter if people liked his work. It's just that they felt something when they looked at it. My mother certainly felt something about that painting. So the art, the charisma, the complicated backstory, my father fit almost perfectly the stereotype of many of the gifted, tormented painters of the last century, except that he didn't make a living from his art. He was a dentist. Yep, a dentist. His list of professional achievements is long and impressive, but sadly much of it is now lost because he burnt most of his papers in a fit of rage and despair when he lost his ability to read and write after his first stroke. And although I was dimly aware of them as a child, I never took much notice of all his accomplishments, the ones that characterized his career. But I do remember the passion with which he spoke about dentistry. My father rarely performed any dental work on me, but when he did, it was with a gentle and a kind hand. The only time that I remember being really close to him and feeling no anxiety, only complete trust. It's probably why I feel strangely calm when I sit in a dental chair. My father had 4 daughters and no sons, and this might be just about the worst thing that could happen in an Indian family. I think he delighted in this point of difference from others of his ethnicity. One of his favorite pastimes was to tell anyone who would listen that daughters are better than sons, and proceed to extol our beauty and our brains while we squirmed. And when he died in 1992, I was a young woman in a different country from him, and I was just starting the adventure of having my very own family. The first words I said to my husband Greg were, "My father died. Oh God, I'm so sorry I didn't love him enough." It's so funny how guilt is often the first response to news of death. But I was the only one of his children that truly embraced not only his passions for photography, which was my earliest visual art practice, but the unique combination of science and art that characterized his life. Google just told me that my father was the first Malaysian to earn a doctorate in dental science. So, I'm an artist with a master's degree in medical science, and he was an artist with a PhD in dental science. But there's one major difference. A kind of chaos often threatens to take over the mind of an artist, and I think it ruled my father's inner life more than he admitted. But I'm fortunate to possess an equanimity that he lacked. I think perhaps the discipline and rigor of medical research, which was a terribly huge struggle for me, has helped give my inner life structure and definition. And I found that balance between science and art that eluded my father. And that one painting, the one that my mother hated, I wonder if that painting was his grand, real, bold, authentic, take it or leave it, this is what I'm doing gesture. I think it must have taken him considerable courage to paint something so massive and so purple and hang it in the center of our home, knowing that no one in the family or even in the country were likely to appreciate it. So today, when my mind drifts back to my childhood home, it doesn't go first to the anxiety and the pain that I witnessed and I felt. It goes to that violet striped wall and the orange swirls and the massive purple painting. Distinctive and courageous and bold. And when I remember my father, I clearly see his cheeky grin and the teasing twinkle in his eye, and he's singing entirely made-up words to a Harry Belafonte song. Distinctive and courageous and bold. And all the scary stuff has faded, and mostly gratitude remains for all the lessons that he gave me. And for that ugly purple painting. I'm Marlene Parker, and that was my story. Hi folks, I'm Marlene Parker. If you liked my story, there are two things you can do right now to hear more. You can click on this button to subscribe to my channel, and I'll keep telling you stories. You can also head over to my website and sign up for my updates, so you'll get goodness delivered straight to your inbox every month. Just click on the link here. Everything I do and teach is about living a more creative life, and I'd love for you to join me.